the lakes are drying up. Like, it's not just like a crisis to me. It feels like pretty scary.
It's a live or die scenario. It's imperative that we save whatever allocations we can, because they're at risk right now. We're looking into other options, including conservation.
Your career at CAP, that's amazing. So for one, that's an amazing kind of I think an achievement to be a part of something like that.
We're at the table at CAP. We are around the table at DWR. We're at the governor's office because I know them. I know how it works and what they need to hear to make decisions. The Carefree Highway corridor is really crucial to keeping Cave Creek in the black. The sales tax revenues from Walmart pretty much are more than all of the revenues from the small businesses in the town core combined.
That is wild.
I have faith that Arizona will not be left in the dust.
Brian Hardy is the only other candidate for mayor 2026 in Cave Creek. And so what do you think separates you from Brian? Hey guys, Alex here. I'm super excited today to be talking to Kathryn Royer, who is a 2026 Cave Creek mayoral candidate and also the current vice mayor of Cave Creek. Kathryn has been in public service for many years. She has over 2 decades of experience in CAP, Central Arizona Project. Very excited to talk about the issues, why we should vote for her, what's driving her. And then as a common citizen, I am very neutral in the space, whether it's her or Brian. It seems like in the community there's a lot of talk about this, and I'm excited to get my own opinion here, as today we are interviewing them both. We are starting with Kathryn Royer, so let's get into it. Kathryn.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on and letting us feature you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're very excited to kind of get, into your background and the details about being in a race to be mayor. And then also, you've been a part of this town since 1998. So you've lived 1996.
Yes.
And then you've been a public servant of the town since 2018.
Correct.
So that is amazing. So good on you for that. But yeah, I kind of want to just start by your background. I mean, it seems like there's an extensive list. You were part of CAP, which I'm really excited to get into. But tell me a little bit about your background and how did you get into this mess that is the race for Cave Creek 2026 mayoral?
Yeah, all righty. Let's just start from college. I got a degree from Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, in telecommunications. And believe it or not, I was able to make a career out of it. And started as a radio news reporter and learned how, that early in my career, how to talk to people and how to ask questions and how to get information and who to ask and be bold to ask questions of people who didn't want to talk. So that carried me into the next level of broadcasting into the Chicago market. And I became the public affairs director for CBS, WBBM FM, another FM station. Awesome. I preferred radio because I didn't necessarily want people to judge me on my looks. I wanted them to listen to what I was saying because I love to provide information, and I always have. I like to interview people. I like to bring information out, facts, on subjects that people care about.
Right.
And so I did that for 2 years. And then and then I transferred from broadcasting, which is a very difficult and hard career because there's so much turnover, into corporate communications.
Right.
And also because I got married and had a child. So I needed a little bit more stability rather than the world of broadcasting.
Yeah.
So I went into a utility company, which at the time, I almost felt bad that I was like selling out because I used to interview monopolies. And then I went to go work for one. But the interesting thing was I was able to determine that they're not the big bad bully that people think they are. They're really doing invaluable services, providing electric, gas, water to the public, things that we need to survive. So again, I learned some really good lessons from all of these jobs. And I was recruited then in 1996 to come and work for Central Arizona Project, or CAP.
Right. That is, I think, what is the craziest thing about you in this leadership position that, you were in it? You were literally in that position. Tell me about that and your time there. Was that 2 decades that you spent at CAP?
I spent 20 years there, yes, and I was the first director of communications. They didn't have anybody at the senior level. They had a public information officer, but there was a crisis brewing in Tucson because we were just about to deliver Tucson their share of Colorado River water, and they didn't want it. They thought it was poisonous because the test run of it, when they pushed it through the pipes, the opposite direction that groundwater was going, it sloughed off all the rust.
Right.
And so all this brown water came out of the pipes and ruined a lot of appliances.
Right.
So they said, whoa, we are not interested in this water.
Right.
We prefer our groundwater. And we knew that they were going to need it in the future,
right,
and that we needed to use all the allocation that we were provided. So they hired me to begin communicating that message,
right,
and working with the people in Tucson, including Tucson Water and their director of the water department, and we got all the messaging out and got it done. At the same time, somebody from Tucson ran for our board, and we all thought, oh no, because he was an adversary.
Okay.
And but you know what? He saw the light when he came on the board of what's entailed with the water supplies and how we process it and its importance to the community.
Right.
We can't live without it, and he realized that when he got on the board.
Right. So for some of the viewers that don't know what CAP is, can you kind of just give us a brief description?
Sure. It's the single largest resource for renewable water supplies. The canal was built in the 70s, and it's 336 miles long, going from California all the way to south of Tucson, the border of California. And so it has 14 pumping plants, lots of turnouts. It's it's called an engineering marvel for what it really takes to push water uphill. It takes a lot of energy.
How many miles is it?
336 miles long.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it is the lifeline for Arizona and for California and for Nevada, the lower basin states, as well as the Colorado River I'm talking about here, for upper basin states, for states in the upper basin. That 30 million people rely on this water,
right,
including 10 Indian tribes, if not more than that now. And Mexico has a share of the Colorado River resources. So it's imperative that we save whatever allocations we can, because they're at risk right now.
So before we get too much into that, I want to kind of bring it back to, your career at CAP, that's amazing. So for one, that's an amazing kind of I think an achievement to be a part of something like that. But then where did you kind of sway into, were you living in Cave Creek at the time, or how did you get into Cave Creek politics after that?
Well, we moved to Cave Creek in 1996 when I was recruited by CAP. We had identified Cave Creek as the place we wanted to live, obviously for its beauty and natural desert, and it wasn't too far. It was only 30 minutes to work. And so it all worked out. But I worked there 20 years, which was a long time, but I learned a lot. And again, I was at a senior level, so I was around the table with the general manager, whom I reported directly to, right, the general counsel, the operations directors, the water resource people, the HR people. So we, as a small team, 7 people, made the decisions for the entire organization on how it was run.
Right.
And then we also had a 14-member publicly elected board of directors, 15 members, and from Maricopa, from Pima, and from Pinal County. So every month we had board meetings, which is where I learned what kind of information a board needs to make informed decisions. Right. And that's why I knew that between my water background and my communications background, Cave Creek needed me. We're not doing our job in saving and protecting our excess water. We had excess water in the canal that we weren't using, and so we were leaving it in the canal for other municipalities to get. And that was what I campaigned on in 2018. Oh, I retired after 20 years in 2016.
That's what my next question was.
Took
so
2
she
years
retired,
off,
and then
yeah,
you're like, no, I'm not done.
I was young.
Yeah.
I was still young, and I retired pretty young. Not as young as others, but pretty young. And I did try other things. I learned mahjong, I learned piano, I joined book clubs, I almost volunteered at the library, and none of it was quite the right fit. One of the people who worked for me, who was Kathy Carlett, who became the mayor of Peoria.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and another person who worked for me preceded her as mayor of Peoria. So I had these people on my staff who were involved in their local politics. I went to one of Kathy's State of the City addresses when I was retired, and I saw the incredible work that she had done for Peoria. And I realized that I could do that for Cave Creek. Not as on a big a scale, nothing like an urban area like Peoria, 170,000 people, but the quality of the work that improves the community. And so that's when I decided to throw my hat in the ring in 2018.
Except you're in the place that you love, your place you call home. So,
Yes, right, 30 years. I've lived in my same house, made some improvements over the years, got divorced, was single for a while, got remarried. I have 2 children, adult children, one of whom now has a daughter who's my heart and soul, my Olive. She's 4 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So, she.
I have a 2-year-old, just about 2-year-old. So
just
I'm
fabulous.
just babies. I'm just like.
I mean, she's just my life, really, aside from politics and my husband and my kids. But anyway, it all makes for a very fulfilling life.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to work on behalf of this community to protect us all.
Right. So in the 7 to 8 years now that you've been kind of involved with the town council, vice mayor, what does it take to be a good mayor? Or what are some of the lessons that you've learned so far?
I think communication is key. Even if you're not on the same page, in many ways. The council is nonpartisan. So it doesn't matter what party we belong to. We don't bring that to the table. We work together on the issues facing Cave Creek and for what we deem our community needs the most. And so I have always tried to be a collaborator with everybody on the council. And I also emphasized teamwork within our community. A lot of our decisions that are critical, we have task forces and committees. And I don't know if they did that prior to my arrival, possibly, but I think we've done it more since I've been on council. We had a wonderful task force to purchase the 4,005 acres of state trust land. We've had a task force to help us identify locations for the Morning Star Trail. When issues are really controversial, I think it's really important to involve the people. The people's voice matters. And so when we were debating if we could afford a fire department, some people thought we needed a property tax. We knew it probably would fail if we asked for a property tax. So we did the homework of bringing in experts to analyze our budget and our revenues and our expenses, and if we had enough capital to fund our own fire department. And because we had those public meetings with a lot of give and take between our community members and between the experts, economists, well-known people who are very well respected throughout the whole valley, we were able to agree that we could do it on our own, just through the general fund, through our sales tax dollars. And that's what we did. And not only do we have one, but we have 2, which is a huge responsibility. It's at least $5 million a year to carry those 2 fire departments. But it's absolutely necessary, especially after the back-to-back fires in 2021, and we had to do it. And we had to find the way to fund it. And we did it. And that was through collaboration.
So that kind of brings up a thought in my head about your greatest accomplishments so far. Like, is the fire station, the 4,000 acres, like what's been like your highlight so far in the leadership roles?
I have to say, and I really have trouble taking credit for this, but I got to give credit where credit is due, and it's to me, because I ran on this campaign of banking water.
Right.
And so we got it done after COVID, which stalled everything. But in 2021, and it was not easy to get the money to bank it, because it does cost money. But then we got advice that we couldn't bank it based on an Arizona law that prohibits communities that pump water to then bank it underground. So you can't do both. Well, my knowledge and experience proved so immensely important. I called up the director of the Department of Resources and I said, We don't pump in Cave Creek. We own Desert Hills, which pumps. It's a separate utility.
Right.
We don't pump in Cave Creek. We're 95% dependent on Colorado River CAP water.
Right.
And they changed their decision, and we were able to bank water in 2021 because of that. And now we have over 3,000 acre-feet of water stored, which we're using as a bridge for the next 3 to 5 years, should our allocation be cut back.
Right. So is that the construction that's been happening over there by Lowe's?
No, that's different, and that's the second most wonderful thing that we've done during my tenure, the Phoenix Interconnect.
Okay.
You know, we have a 12.5-mile pipeline from the CAP Canal to Cave Creek, one like 30-year-old pipeline. That if that would go down, we would be stuck for days without water.
Right.
And so we developed this plan to build a backup, which with Phoenix, they shared the cost. And so we have, and I have the details, it's I think a 1,000-gallon tank that can provide up to 1.4 million gallons a day of treated CAP water from Phoenix. So should we have a break of the pipe or should we have any other emergency, we'll have water stored in that tank right here to provide to our people. It was expensive. Of course, the cost went up during COVID because of all the supply issues, but it's worth it. It's worth every penny to have that. And that connection to Phoenix also will help us in the future.
Wow. Man, I could dig into probably 20 more questions into that because that's very interesting to me, but we do have a limited time, so.
We're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. Everybody's going to be invited.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Okay,
I will
good.
be there. So there's a lot of success so far in your leadership. I think that we can, easily say that. What is the big picture for you right now? What are your biggest concerns, for the future moving forward? Say you win, you are a mayor. What's your biggest focus?
Well, I hate to keep beating the same horse, but we have to finalize our long-term water supplies. And we're looking at several different options, and we have been for years. It's not like we just discovered that there's an issue. The drought on the Colorado has been going on for 25 to 30 years, depending on who you ask, but it's a long time. So our allocation is most likely going to get cut. We're hoping only 20%. The estimates could be 75%, could be 100%, depending on the federal government and what they decide.
Right.
Because Arizona, believe it or not, is being penalized for banking as much water underground as we have.
Right.
The other upper basin states, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Wyoming, they want us to use that water that we've stored instead of retaining the allocations that we have. We don't agree with that.
So for our viewers, I'm familiar because I read up on this before our conversation, the banking, but to explain that a little bit. So Phoenix has banked water. What does that mean?
Means we could technically get that water out of the ground and put it in the Cap Canal and service people with it. There isn't really a way yet to recover that water, though. We have it all banked. In fact, we, Cave Creek, are working with Peoria and Surprise with an exchange agreement, which means they're going to use their wells to take water out of the ground to put into the CAP Canal to bring to us. We're too far from where we bank the water to access it ourselves.
Right.
So we thankfully, and they're supposed to vote on it today, actually, Peoria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if their city council will approve the plan, which we think they will. And we're pretty confident that they will. Our long-term water supply is the most important thing that I have to finish. And Bob Morse was an exceptional mayor. He was a chemical engineer and he knows infrastructure like the back of his hand. I'm more of a water supply person. So we were really an exceptional team and I'm going to miss that. But I'm confident that I can fill his shoes, I could get that job done because we've been working on it with state legislators, with the governor's office, with Arizona Department of Water Resources, with Central Arizona Project. We're right in the thick of the discussions, and they are well aware of how much they need to help us because there's no other town that's 95% dependent on the CAP water. We're unique in that aspect, and believe me, I have said we need some special treatment here, and they have heard us.
Right. So obviously the water issue is a huge deal, and we'll get a little bit more into that in this discussion, but I'm curious about what you think as far as the business side, economic growth, things like that for the local businesses, business owners.
Yes.
What's your goal? Is there any specific goals for that, or
Sure.
What's your thought process?
Yes, it's very important. Sales tax is our main source of revenue, so we need to ensure that our businesses, both in the town core and along the Carefree Highway corridor, are successful. I intend to work more closely with the town core businesses. We have attempted in the past few years, to have merchants meetings at Town Hall to go through what their issues are and what we can do to help them. They haven't been as successful as they could be. I think that we need to do more work on that, in that regard, because we need to be collaborators and partners. Without our town core, that's our identity, that's our reputation, that's our image.
Right. So you said merchant
meetings.
Meetings.
Yes,
so,
just like twice a year.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like, even as somebody that supports a lot of businesses, it's difficult to get these guys wrangled into the same place. So I'm sure you run into that issue, but I don't think that I've ever seen anything about that. Where do you find out information about?
Well, we send out personal invitations to all the businesses, and now they haven't had one in like 6 months. Now that you're in business, we'll put you on the list.
Yeah, okay.
Because all voices matter. Whether you're a large business like Harold's or whether you're a small coffee shop, we want to support our local businesses as much as we can. We know that they have needs. We've done a lot to improve our town core, for walkability, for pedestrian crossings, to improving our medians. We're doing whatever we can to make our town core more safe and secure, especially during special events.
Right. So speaking of the special events, what is your perception on things like Bike Week and the Rodeo? Do we need more events? I did come to a town council meeting. I think they were reviewing Bike Week, and there was actually a lot of great things to say about Bike Week, but I thought that your perception of that was a little bit more stricter in your mindset.
It was right after this year's Bike Week when there was a fairly serious accident. I am not opposed to Bike Week. I support Bike Week. I think it's part of our texture in our community. Yeah. And I know that the Bradshaws are good people and good business people, and they want what's best for our community as well. So let's just put that out there. I want to work with the Bradshaws and Harold's and the Buffalo Chip, the three primary businesses that support the whole event. But it does affect everybody in the town core, and especially the traffic. And it affects our residents trying to get through town, and that's what they don't like. But this year, with that accident, it was really clear that we have to make sure that people are always safe with that many people in our small little town.
Right.
And so we've already approved $120,000 more for sheriff's deputies from October to April during the high season. Right. We need to make sure, because it affects our image. It was very negative, and it went on TV in Phoenix. They covered it, and it made us look like we're, unmanageable and not safe. And that's the last thing that we want people to think, because we are, and we try our best to have clean, safe events, including the rodeo. That attracts a lot of people, and that brings a lot of people into the town. And we need all that because it's revenue generating, and people like it.
Right.
I mean, it's our culture. It's our Western culture. And so we have cowboys, and we have bikers, and we have bicyclists, and we have artists, and so we love them all. And one of my most proud programs that I brought with me from my other companies that I worked for was the grant program. There was some funding donated to local nonprofits in Cave Creek, but nobody knew how to get any money, and it seemed to be the same two organizations year after year. And so I was clear that I wanted to change that whole process, and we did. We now have an application process for all the nonprofits, 501c3s. There are criteria for what they can do to be able to get a grant. But there's an application process, and there's a committee composed of residents and business owners, myself and a senior staff person, to evaluate all the applications and then award grants that we think are equitable with how many people they serve and other criteria. Yeah, so last year we gave $40,000 to about 10 different organizations, including the Food Bank, the museum, Sonoran Arts League, all kinds of good organizations that really need our support.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good organizations here locally, and even for initiatives for Chacon Media. Like, we're involved with so many different businesses. At this point, like, we really just want everyone to get more involved, and specifically with Bike Week, even like we had a lot of initiatives. We did get to push more traffic to those spots, and you could literally driving through town, you could actually see the visual impact. But really, it only takes a little bit of involvement, and that's kind of initiatives for us next year to hopefully, for events like that, to kind of get more people pushed into that, and then hopefully connect the town a little bit more as well, because I do think that there is a little bit of a disconnect between some of the businesses, events, and the town, and like something needs to come together a little bit more. So there's an opportunity to grow. But what you're saying there, I mean, I didn't know about the grants and that kind of thing, so that's really great. That's really great that we do have those initiatives. But yeah, as far as the business growth and things like that, I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and the Carefree Highway corridor is really crucial to keeping Cave Creek in the black, because in 2009 there was a committee, the White Paper Committee, composed of about 5 or 6 people, because we were ready to go bankrupt. There was no money for they could pay the salaries of the staff for like 2 months. So it was imperative that we found a way to generate more revenue. And so that's when it was identified that the Carefree Highway corridor was going to be our savior. And that's when we got Walmart, which, the sales tax revenues from Walmart pretty much are more than all of the revenues from the small businesses in the town core combined. So it has saved us, and everybody really in Cave Creek should shop at Walmart, because that money comes to Cave Creek, the town. It operates our town. But then we've grown since then. We've gotten Sprouts, we've gotten Abrazo Medical Center, a McDonald's, Harbor Freight, a lot of different for-profit retail operations whose sales taxes we depend on. So it's been a really great opportunity for us to sustain ourselves. So between the two, the Carefree Highway corridor and town core businesses, we're absolutely in support of all of them. They're very important to us. We couldn't fund our fire department without them. We couldn't fund open space without that money. We couldn't fund our staff without this revenue. So it's crucial.
I think as kind of a regular, just common citizen of Cave Creek, you don't really understand how the severity of that, and then you telling me that that's pretty wild. Honestly. So
our budget this year is $80 million. Now, not all of that will be spent. It's like a cap at $80 million, depending on how many programs we can get done. Road paving, road maintenance is huge. We need to improve our fire hydrants. Some of them do not work. So we have a lot of infrastructure that we need to pay attention to. And that's where that money is invested.
Absolutely. Okay, so we did kind of dig into that. Now it's that scary, big scary monster in the middle of the room is kind of the water situation. And I think before I dig into the local problem, I'd like to kind of just get your opinion, from somebody that was in CAP for 2 decades. Did we know that this was an issue back then, or is it more severe? And what's your personal opinion on our current situation?
So now it was 30 years ago, because I came there in '96 and stayed till 2016. No, we had plentiful supplies, and we talked a lot about that. And our excess supply. Most cities had excess supplies like we did, and you could buy them in addition to your allocation. Over the years, we saw, the climate situation and the lack of snow and the lack of rain in the Rocky Mountains where we get the water, the snow melt.
Right.
And so we were aware that things were changing. Now, that being said, it's a political board, and the governor watches, and the state is pushing economic growth and businesses to attract to Phoenix to, employ people with good salaries. So they have their agendas, obviously, and they don't want these businesses that potentially may relocate here to think that we don't have enough water. The current president of the board, Terry Goddard, is amazing, and he's not afraid of, calling a spade, because it's a crisis. We're all looking at the options. There's groundwater supplies, and we looked into importing groundwater from the Harquahala Valley, which is like 40 miles west. And we were going to spend $11.5 million for 500 acre feet for 100 years. Huge amount of money.
Right.
And we signed a contract, but we had 2 months to do due diligence, and we realized that they didn't have their infrastructure in place. And so we didn't have any idea how much it would cost to get that water to us.
Right.
So on top of an $11.5 million, we were probably going to pay several million more just to get the water to us. And we bailed because we knew that that was fiscally irresponsible,
right.
not to have a figure in mind what the total amount of money would be to
100%.
pay for that. So now we're looking into other options, including conservation. Duh,
Yeah.
we live in a desert.
Yeah.
And we need to emphasize and encourage all of our residents to cut back.
Yeah.
Their, especially wastefulness, watering outdoor plants.
Right.
Most of the waste of water is outdoors.
Right.
So
It's going as far as like giving my son a bath every day. You know what I mean?
I know.
My thought process is kind of like that right now.
It's true.
And to me, that it's kind of just coming up now that like Lake Mead and Lake Powell and like the lakes are drying up. Like it's not just like a crisis to me. It feels like pretty scary. As like a younger citizen, younger father, raising my son who's going to be 2 this year, maybe having another kid. I have a business in Cape Creek. I live in Tremonto. We're right next to the chip factory, and they have all this huge grand plan to just build and build and build. And it's like, at what point are we going to be like, okay, like, hold on a second, like, are we supposed to like stop building, or like are we just going to like pretend like that doesn't exist, that problem doesn't exist? It's very frightening just for somebody that's a little bit younger to like hear these issues and then see the images, and then now it feels like it's finally starting to be a topic. But and then back into Cape Creek, and then we have our own little issue where 95% of our water comes from CAP. So it's like, I'm very interested now to like hear. So you did kind of mention that there was kind of a plan, but we decided not to do that.
That specific Harquahala Valley importing of water. And what I can say to your last comment is, first of all, I'm not at the state level. I worked at CAP, which is separate from the state. And so they're in charge, and they're at the table with all the other states negotiating how much of an allocation cut we might get. I have faith that Arizona will not be left in the dust.
Right.
I know these people who are smart, resourceful, experienced attorneys who are negotiating all the agreements. It's a tense situation, but they will not let us go dry.
Right.
They just won't. There's also the Salt River Project
right.
that has water from the Verde River and Salt River. And so there's agreements between SRP and CAP to transfer water. Mm-hmm. So we have other sources of water, not just Colorado River water.
Right.
There's groundwater, there's SRP water, there's CAP water.
Right.
Indians have water rights, and they're selling some water. Farmers have a lot of water rights, so they're able to sell some water. So there's other resources that we're looking at to provide us with enough water to make up for what we might lose.
Right. And so those are kind of the those are the avenues that you're looking at for Cape Creek, essentially.
Yes, and we're also, which some people are not in favor of, but we're just looking at it. We're putting out an invitation for bid to see if any private utilities might be interested in purchasing our water, wastewater, and Desert Hills Water Company.
Right.
Because bigger companies, there's a couple of advantages. They have access and more money to buy new water supplies.
Right.
And they have more customers that they could spread the costs out to.
Right.
In Cave Creek, we have 4,500 water customers
Right.
that we can spread our costs out to, which is not a lot.
Right.
We raised our rates last year 6%. And if we have to spend $11 million or more on new water acquisitions, undoubtedly we'll have to raise the rates again.
Right.
So we're looking at all of our options. New water acquisitions versus conservation versus selling our water utility.
What's conservation look like?
We're hiring a conservation firm to help us promote it to our community.
Right.
So we can encourage people to see that it's really important. It's a double-edged sword, believe it or not, because when people don't use as much water, then we don't make as much money.
Right.
Because their water bills are less.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're not worried about that. We would like to. Our priority is to save our water as much as we can.
Right.
We're having a water forum tomorrow night at
Okay.
Town Hall. We do these about twice a year,
Right.
where we have speakers from CAP, and we have our own staff, and then we usually have somebody from DWR, Department of Water Resources. So we have perspectives from all the providers and the regulators
Right.
to give us the down low on the situation.
Where do you find the agenda for the town? Like,
It's online. Everything
online?
is
Everything
online.
There, so every agenda
Everything
for all
is
of it?
online, and you
Okay.
can sign up, and it'll be sent to you.
Okay.
So you don't even have to go looking for it.
Look at that.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
I mean, we got into the 21st century finally.
Hopefully.
And again, I brought that in. I hate to take credit,
Good
but I am,
job,
because
yeah.
we needed a communications person.
Right.
And we finally hired a director.
Yeah,
level.
Bo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bo. He's
yeah,
great.
he is. Yeah, we've
and
had
he
a
has
couple
really
conversations.
helped us inform the community of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah, so that's a community thing where you guys did the Cape Creek Town Tourism Visit Cape Creek page is looking great. As a social media agency, we love to see what you guys have been doing there. It's brought a lot of good light, and I think your team's doing a great job. So we talked about water. Plenty of water discussion has been made. But I would be curious to see, other than water, what do you think is Arizona and the region's biggest issues?
Relationships are everything, and the relationships between the state legislators and municipal leaders is often fraught in controversy over power and issues, related to how much independence do we have as a city to run our own shows.
Right.
And so in terms of state issues versus local issues, zoning and land use restrictions, sometimes the legislation that they cover impacts us negatively. It takes away some of our own independence on our own zoning, which we push back. There's also economic issues, regulations, like they try to take away sales tax on groceries. We need those sales taxes on groceries. Other cities might not need them as badly as we do, like Phoenix, and in fact I don't think Phoenix collects them.
Right.
But we do, when shoppers at Sprouts or shoppers at Walmart, we absolutely need those sales tax revenues on groceries, and the state legislature didn't understand how important that is to us.
What's the comparison, Cape Creek, in that instance, to other cities are the same way, or?
You mean
Like for
the
that
conflict?
tax, yeah.
For that tax, no.
Yeah.
Some cities are already exempt from that tax. I think the bigger cities like Phoenix, Tucson, even maybe Mesa, do not collect sales tax on groceries because they have other sources for revenue. We don't. And so sometimes, and I think this is how they usually make their legislation, it's based on population.
Right.
So the bigger cities are more impacted on various issues than we are.
Right.
But we have to stay aware. We have to be acutely aware of what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. Like, I'm so curious how it all works. It just seems like there's so many people involved all the time at this level, and then you have this level, and then you have this level. It's like, who the hell is talking to? How are we all like coordinating properly?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we hired a really wonderful town manager after Carrie Dyrek, who was also wonderful, retired. Grady Miller came to us from Fountain Hills and Peoria and a couple of other municipalities, and he has a real handle on how things work. And it has enormously benefited us because we're not scrambling at every turn to figure out who to call. So, you know, our staff has grown by leaps and bounds. They're really high functioning, and they really are the ones who are in the trenches. You know, the council and the mayor, we're policymakers. They bring us the issues that we need to decide, but we don't get involved in their daily work. In fact, we're prevented legally from actually telling them how to do something. So there's a division between the staff and the council, but we have a very good working relationship with all of them. Grady reports to us, but everybody else reports to Grady.
So was that organized? Like, it's been organized for decades like that?
Yes, council manager form of government. And not every city has that.
I'm still getting a little...
It's complicated, which is the benefit for somebody coming to town hall who has a background in government. Because we understand how the machinations work. You know, we understand that it takes longer to get things done in government than business. It's a major frustration for business leaders to come and work in government. They really have to acclimate to a much slower scale. Not that we don't get work done, but we get it done way more thoroughly, I think, because I worked in both. I worked in corporate America. I reported to the CEO. I know how those rules work. They're fast and quick to make decisions because they need to make their money and prove to their shareholders. Government, it's nonprofit, so we don't really have to work under that kind of pressure. So we take our time to do everything right and ethical, and that's what I love about it.
So I think that kind of is a perfect segue into my next question. So Brian Hardy is the only other candidate for mayor 2026 in Cape Creek, and so what do you think separates you from Brian?
Well, I do think that it's my 20 years in government and the water business in particular, because I know the people, I know the leaders, and it has definitely been a huge benefit for us to be able to pick up the phone and say, this is what's happening here and we need your help. It's not a business case scenario, it's a live or die scenario. And it's who you know to a large degree. And so we're at the table at CAP. We are around the table at DWR. We're at the governor's office because I know them. And not that, you know, I'm a huge influence, but I know how it works and what they need to hear to make decisions. So I think my background in both business and government is unparalleled. Because I have it from all angles, and nonprofit, which is why I have a love for nonprofits. I ran a nonprofit for 6 years. I know what it takes to go out there and beat down doors for money. I had to raise $250,000 a year from my nonprofit, and it's not easy. And so I have this experience that led me to this place that I can give back to my community, all this knowledge and experience, to keep us afloat, to maintain and protect our property values, to have a safe and secure community. And so that's my strong point.
I love it. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much for coming on to Human Built. I think this has been extraordinarily educational for me to get to know you as a candidate, and you know, hopefully for our viewers, you know, they can make a little bit more of a informed decision.
I wanted to thank you for the opportunity of being here.
Yeah, of course.
And I really appreciate the opportunity for people to see me, who I am and where I came from and how I got here. And also to remember that it's a nonpartisan council. We work well together. We've been very successful together. The last 2 years, the majority of our votes were 7-0, which means, consensus on every issue.
Right.
I hope to be the mayor that can lead us into more of those decisions, a collaborative, decisive leader with our people.
Of course. Awesome. And voting begins?
Early ballots come out June 24th.
There you go.
The election is July 21st.
Perfect. We'll be rushing to get this one out.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathryn.
Thank you.
Hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Kathryn Royer, and hopefully this helps you make a better educated decision on who you're going to vote for, as well as support in the 2026 election. Get involved, get out there, support your candidates, and then also support the town as much as you can. There's so much that you can do to be involved in what's happening in Cave Creek. So thank you so much for listening, watching, supporting us. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, and we hope to hear from you all soon. Thank you.